My name is P. Ramadevi, lecturer in ECE. Today's my subject is microwave communication and television, and today's topic is satellite communication. So, in the previous session or in the previous videos, I have said about the microwave link, what is the use of microwave link and block diagram of microwave link, and I have explained each block of the microwave link. So, what is a microwave link means? It is just like a same as that of the coaxial cable, fiber optic cable, but it is having in a different manner. That means it is used for point-to-point microwave transmission between repeaters. So the microwave link is going to be performing same function as that of the copper wire or coaxial cable or fiber optic cable. So when we are having the microwave link, it receives the transmitted signal from the microwave transmitter and it is amplified that signal and it is going to be retransmitted. Okay, so that is the microwave link, and I have said about what are the advantages of microwave link and at the same time what are the uses of microwave links. So when we are having the microwave link, these are going to be used for point-to-point communication. At the same time, TV transmission, and it is used for IP networks, that is digital IP networks, and it is going to be used in 2G, 3G and 4G networks, and it also used in 5G networks also, and it is going to be used in wireless MAN networks, that is managed internet, and we are having three types of networks, that is local area network, metropolitan area network and wide area networks. So in that we are going to be using via microwave link. And what are the advantages of microwave links means it is using the wide bandwidth. It is used for the transmission quality. To increase the transmission quality, we are going to be using microwave links. And there is a reliability between the point-to-point communication, and it is having the flexibility, and it is easy of communication can be done, and it is providing the wireless communication, and it is providing the improved directivity with our antenna arrays, and it is very cheaper than the coaxial cable for TV transmission, and in this easy to design repeaters, and it is mainly maintaining easily with that, and there is no need of cables also, and it will be using for transmitting both analog and digital microwave signals. Okay, so these are the advantages of microwave links. So this is about the microwave links. So in this session I am going to deal with what is the definition of satellite, what is the need of satellite, and what is the history of satellite, and how the satellite works. So first of all, what is a satellite? It is a microwave link repeater that will revolving or rotating around the earth. That means it is nothing but an microwave link repeater that will rotating around the earth, and that is nothing but an which receives the signals from the transmitting earth station and amplify these signals, and is down converted and sends these signals to the receiving earth station. Sometimes the satellite is also calling as a physical object that revolves around the large body also. Sometimes the satellite is going to be rotating at a particular speed. Okay, so in our solar system, the earth and other planets are satellites which will revolve around the sun, and the natural satellite is going to be calling as moon of the earth. Okay, these are about the satellite. So what is the definition of satellite means? It is a smaller object that revolves around a larger object in space. Satellite means it is a smaller object that revolves around a larger object in space. For example, the moon is a natural satellite of Earth. Okay, it is nothing but a satellite only. Why? Because it is also moving body. Okay, so for that reasons we are going to be calling as a natural satellite. So when we are having the communication taking place between any two earth stations through a satellite, we are going to be calling as satellite communication. By using these satellites, when the communication takes place between the two earth stations through a satellite, we are going to be calling as satellite communication. And in this communication, the electromagnetic waves are going to be used as a carrier signals. These signals carry the information such as voice, audio, video, or any data between the ground and space. At the same time, vice versa, that is from space to ground. Okay, so when in this communication we are going to be carrying the electromagnetic waves, and these signals carry the information such as voice, audio, video, any data, okay, between the ground and space, or between the space and ground, vice versa. Okay, this is about the satellite and satellite communication. So what is a satellite means? It is a smaller object that revolves around a larger object in space. For example, moon is natural satellite of Earth. So what is it satellite communication means? If this communication takes place between any two earth stations through a satellite, is going to be calling as satellite communication. In this communication, the electromagnetic waves are used as a carrier signals. These signals carry the information such as voice, video, audio, or any data which is to be transmitted between the ground and space, or space to ground. Okay, so we are going to be calling as satellite communication. So in order to understand about the satellite, first of all we have to know about the layers of the earth. Okay, that means above the earth curvature, what are the layers forming? Based on the distance from the earth, it is going to be calling as number of layers. These are the layers of atmosphere. It is radio wave propagation. Okay, we will calling as radio wave propagation. Clear? So what is this means? Above the earth, that is 14 kilometers, is going to be calling as troposphere. The above the earth curvature, the 14 kilometers above the earth, whenever the height is going to be 14 kilometers above the earth curvature, we are going to be calling as troposphere. And from 14 to 18, it is having a point that is going to be calling as tropopause, that is the differentiation of the above layer. Okay, so for differentiations we are having a layer. Clear? And the next one, from the earth curvature above the 50 kilometers, above the 50 kilometers, we are going to be calling as stratosphere. Okay, so from the stratosphere, the above the stratosphere, a layer is going to be forming, calling as ozone layer. That is very dangerous to us, so it is very dangerous area above the earth curvature. Okay, so that is calling as ozone layer. Okay, so this is about the radio wave propagation. And not only with the stratosphere, it is also having above the earth curvature 90 kilometers, we are going to be calling as mesosphere. Okay, mesosphere. And whenever having the distance from the earth, not with the earth, from the mesosphere, it is 350 kilometers, we are going to be calling as ionosphere. Okay, so that means this is the 350 and it is the 50 kilometers, so both are going to be clubbing together. And what is the area means? It is a 400 kilometers maximum. Okay, so that is above the earth curvature. Above the earth curvature, we are having the 400 kilometers, we are having known as ionosphere. So these are layers above the earth, it is going to be forming. Whenever we are having the propagation of waves, that can be done in number of ways. And above the earth we are having troposphere, stratosphere, ozone layer, mesosphere and ionosphere. Okay, so like this we are having number of layers of our atmosphere. So based on height of the layers or height from the earth curvature, it is going to be division. Okay, why we are going to be seeing that in this we are having the space propagation, wave propagations. Okay, like this, to understand that we have to well known of this diagram. So please note this diagram. So this is the radio wave propagation. Okay, so what is the need of satellite communication? So maximally why we are going to be needing the satellite communication? For transmission of electromagnetic waves for frequency between the 2 megahertz to 30 megahertz uses the sky wave propagation. I have told in this session that we need the radio wave propagation. Why? Because whenever we are transmitting the electromagnetic waves for frequencies between the 2 megahertz to 30 megahertz, which will be using the sky wave propagation, in which the ionosphere reflects the waves towards earth receiver station. Okay, so that is going to be working at ionosphere. So for that reason only I have said this radio wave propagation. Okay, so 2 megahertz to 30 megahertz, which will be using the ionosphere layer above the earth curvature, and at the same time this communication is going to be restricted only for 50 kilometers to 400 kilometers above the earth surface. Why? Because I have said that the area above the earth curvature, that is 400 kilometers, that is going to be limited. Okay, so the communication over that, it is not going to be passed, it is not going to be done. Okay, so for VHF and UHF bands, those frequencies more than 30 megahertz cannot be transmitted by using the sky wave propagations, as the wave does not reflect it back, but it penetrates to the ionosphere. That means it will not having the capability to reflect back towards the earth's receiver. Is it clear? But whenever we are using the frequency of signals at 2 megahertz to 30 megahertz, it can be having the propagation in our sky wave propagation, that is it can be done in ionosphere layer. So ionosphere layer can be done. Above that it is not going to be done. If we are passing the UHF and VHF bands of frequencies, and that is having the frequency of more than 30 megahertz, it cannot be transmitted in that by using the sky wave propagation. So if and only if we use that, the signals which are going to be reflected back, it will not reflected back, but it will penetrate through that ionosphere layer. So these penetrated waves have to be reflected back to the earth's receiving station via some repeaters in space. These repeaters should be a system which could be launched out in space to stay at high altitudes of several thousand kilometers. So for that, a body cannot remain stationary above the earth due to gravitational force of the earth. Hence, it could only a revolving body. So, hence, it could be only a revolving body around the earth called as satellite, which should appear stationary from an earth station. Clear? So that means in order to use the UHF and VHF bands of frequency, those frequencies is going to be more than 30 megahertz. For that we are going to be using sky wave propagation. If we are going to be using sky wave propagation, that waves does not reflect back, it will be only penetrating through the ionosphere. So these penetrating waves has to be reflected back to the Earth's receiving station. So that can be done only by using some repeater links. So what is that we are going to be using means a body which will remaining stationary above the Earth due to gravitational force of the Earth. So what is that body means? It is nothing but an satellite. Okay, so that is the need of satellite, and which will be appearing as a stationary from the Earth station. Okay, so maximum hope or station distance is limited to 1500 kilometers only in both ground wave propagation and sky wave propagation. The satellite communication overcomes this limitation. In this method, the satellite provides the communication for longer distance and which is well beyond the line of sight. Okay, so that is the main purpose of satellite communications. Okay, and the satellite locate at certain height above the Earth, and the communication takes place between any two Earth station easily via satellite. So it overcomes the limitation of communication between the two Earth stations due to Earth's curvature. Is it clear? So what is the need of satellite communication means? Whenever we are using the VHF and UHF bands of frequency which is more than the 30 megahertz, and that cannot be transmitted by using the skywave propagation. If and only if we are going to be used to transmit, that waves are not going to be reflected back, but it will penetrate through the ionosphere. So for penetrating of waves, these penetrating of waves have to be reflected back to the Earth's receiving station via some repeaters in space. These repeaters should be a system which will be launched out in space to stay at high altitudes of several thousand kilometers. So we need a body cannot remain stationary above the Earth due to gravitational force of Earth. So hence it could be only a revolving body around the Earth's curvature called as satellite, which would be appearing as stationary from a Earth station. That is the need of satellite communication. Okay, so that is the button. Satellite located at a certain height above the Earth. The communication takes place between any two Earth stations easily via satellite. So it can be overcome the limitations of communication between two Earth stations due to Earth's curvature. So what is an history of satellite communication means? We are having number of satellites, but it is introduced. So in 1945, author C. Carley article extraterrestrial relays. So first of all, they have introduced a relays, and it is in the 1945. And next, 1955, John R. Peirce, he has introduced a orbital radio relays in 1955. And in 1956, first transatlantic telephone cable, that is SAT-1, he has introduced that. And in 1957, that is Russia has launched the first Earth satellite calling as Sputnik. Okay, so nowadays the Sputnik is the COVID-19 vaccine also they are going to be calling as Sputnik. Okay, so not that, it is a satellite. Okay, so that is going to be introduced in 1957. And the first successful Delta launcher vehicle is in 1960. And the next one is FCC for experimental satellite communication license is going to be done in 1960. And first of all, they has done some relays and some programs for the starting of the satellites in 1961. And in 1962, Telstar and relay is going to be launched. And in 1962, Communication Satellite Act is going to be introduced by US. Not with the satellite, it is an act to use the communication part, and they has introduced an act. Okay, so in 1963, CCOM is going to be launched. synchronous communication system is going to be launched. And in 1964, Intelsat is going to be formed. So why? Because in our satellite communications, for doing of number of satellite communications, we are having number of satellites which are going to be placed above the Earth's curvature. So that can be done by Intelsat also. So Intelsat is going to be formed in 1964. And in 1965, Comsats, it is calling as an early bird. It is the first commercial communication satellite is going to be introduced. Okay, this is in 1965. And in 1969, Intelsat 3 series providing a global coverage area. Okay, that is Intelsat 3. It is going to be introduced. And in 1972, Anik, the first domestic communication satellite, is going to be introduced by Canada. And in 1974, that is the first US domestic communication satellite is introduced. And in 1975, Intelsat 4A, it is the first use of dual polarization satellite is going to be used. And in 1975, it is introducing a operational body stabilized communication satellite that is going to be calling as RCA Satcom. And in 1976, Marisat, that is first mobile communication satellite for using the wireless mobiles. In 1976, Palapa, that is the third country, that is Indonesia, to launch the domestic communication satellite. And in 1979, Inmarsat is going to be formed. That is just like a Intelsat, like it is going to be Inmarsat is going to be formed. And in 1988, TAT-8, the first fiber optic transatlantic telephone cable is going to be introduced. So these are the history of the satellite. Number of devices and number of satellites are going to be introduced. Okay, that is the introduction of, that is history of satellites. Okay, so that is the main use of satellites, and it is mainly used for number of things with the satellite. Okay, so whenever we are having the satellite communication systems, these are mainly developed to long distance telephone services. And in the 1960s, they has launched vehicles that has been developed that could place a 500 kilo satellite in Earth's orbit, that is geostationary Earth orbit, with the capacity of 5,000 telephone circuits, marking the start of an era of expansion for telecommunication. That means the first time they has introduced number of vehicles in the 1960, and they has placing the 500 kilograms of satellite in the geostationary Earth's orbit, and which is having the capability of 5,000 telephone circuits, marking the start of an era of expansion for telecommunication satellites. Okay, it is the first time is going to be done. Okay, that is the history of satellite. And when we are having the how the satellite will working, so how it is going to be working, mainly the satellite is nothing but, and the main topics are satellite, it is having the satellite. Okay, what is a satellite means? It is a body that moves around another body in a particular path. So a communication satellite is nothing but a microwave repeater station in space. It is helpful in telecommunications, radio and television, along with internet applications. Okay, so that is the main satellite. So how it will works means, the Earth station will send some signals towards the satellite, and the satellites will be converting the signals into a downlink, that is when we are having the uplink, when the earth station transmitting some signals towards the satellite, it is going to be calling as uplink frequency. And when we are having the communication from the satellite to receiving earth station, we are going to be calling as downlink frequency. So what is an uplink frequency? Is nothing but it is a communication link frequency from the transmitting earth station to the satellite, and it is going to be calling as uplink frequency. And it is a communication link frequency from the satellite to receiving earth station is going to be calling as downlink frequency. That means from the earth station to whenever it is going to be passing towards the satellite, we are going to be calling as uplink frequency. And whenever the signal of frequency that is going to be given for the receiving earth station, this frequency is going to be calling as downlink frequency. So especially for the uplink frequency, we are using the C band, at the same time Ku band. Okay, whenever we are using the C band, it will be the 6 gigahertz of the uplink frequency. And whenever we are having the downlink frequency, it is also using the C band and Ku band, but in the downlink frequency we are going to be using 4 gigahertz of frequency, but in the Ku band we are going to be using 12 gigahertz of frequency. Okay, so that means we are transmitting some signals by this antenna. It is going to be received by the satellite, and these signals are going to be downlinked with some frequency of signals. It is in the ranges of 4 gigahertz towards the receiving earth station. Second earth station is nothing but which will be forming as a receiver. Why? Because I have said that this is the transmitting section, so the opposite one is nothing but receiving station only. Okay, that means whenever we are having the microwave frequency bands, so in that number of frequency bands are used. So basically number of frequency bands means for the satellite communication, basically we are using the C band, Ku band, Ka band also. Okay, so for explanation part I am going to see with the C band and Ku band at this moment. Okay, so this is about the working of satellite. How it will works means, a repeater is a circuit which increases the strength of the receiver signal and then transmit it. But this repeater works as an transponder. That means it changes the frequency band of the transmitted signal from the received one. That means whenever the satellite is going to be taken, first of all the repeater is a circuit, in that we are having a repeater, so that will increase the strength of the received signal and then it will retransmit. So whenever it is going to be done in this process, that process is going to be calling as transponder. That means which will be changing the frequency band of the transmitted signal, and that signal is going to be given for the receiving earth station. And what is an uplink frequency means, the frequency with which the signal is sent into the space. So from the earth station it is going to be sending to the satellite, that is going to be calling as uplink frequency. So what is a downlink frequency means, it is a frequency with which the signal is sent by the transponder. That means from the satellite to our receiving station. Okay, this is about the working of satellite. So we have a quiz on this. So the transmitter receiver combination in the satellite is known as, what is going to be known as the combination of transmitter and receiver. So the first option is relay, and the second option is repeater, and the third option is transponder, and the fourth option is duplexer. Please note this question, please. So the transmitter receiver combination in our satellite is going to be known as, whether it is relay, repeater, transponder or duplexer. What is an answer? So that is C, that is transponder. That means it will be acting as a transmitter and receiver combination in our satellite. Okay, the transponder is nothing but it is a transmitter and receiver combination in our satellite. Okay, next, the downlink frequency is lower than the uplink frequency, whether it is true or false. Please note this question. So the downlink frequency is lower than the uplink frequency. Is it very true or false? So let us see the answer. That is true. Why? Because I have said in this session that the uplink frequency is 6 gigahertz and the downlink frequency is 4 gigahertz whenever we are using the C band of frequencies. Okay, in the C band of frequency I have told that the uplink frequency is 6 gigahertz and the downlink frequency is 4 gigahertz. So for that reasons it is very true statement, that is the downlink frequency is lower than the uplink frequency. Okay, next, so what is the reason for carrying the multiple transponders in a satellite? That means in our satellites no satellite is going to be using a single transponder. We will using the multiple transponders in a satellite. Why we are going to be using? So what is the reason? The first option is more number of operating channels, better reception and for more gain, and it is having a redundancy. So what is an option? Please note this question. So what is the reason for carrying the multiple transponders in a satellite? The first option is more number of operating channels, and the second option is better reception, and the third option is more gain, and the fourth one is redundancy. So what is an option? That is more number of operating channels. Why? Because it can easily said that if we are using the TV transmissions, we are not going to use a single channel. Why? Because the single channel is not enough for our usage. Okay, we need number of channels to see. Okay, so it is the best example for carrying the multiple transponders in a satellite. Why? Because we need more number of operating channels. So for that reasons we are going to be carrying the multiple transponders in a satellite. Okay, so this is the reason to have a multiple transponders in a satellite. Next, why are VHF, UHF and microwave signals used in satellite communication? The first option is more bandwidth, second option is more spectrum space, and the third option is are not diffracted by the ionosphere, and the last option is economically viable. The question is, why are VHF, UHF and microwave frequency signals used in satellite communication? First option is more bandwidth, the second option is more spectrum space, and the third option is they are not deflected by the ionosphere, and the last one is economically viable. So what is an option? Please write this question. So why are VHF, UHF and microwave frequency signals are used in satellite communication? So the first option is more bandwidth, the second option is more spectrum space, and third option is are not diffracted by the ionosphere, and the fourth option is economically viable. And the option are they are not diffracted by the ionosphere. Why? Because I have already said that in the usage of the satellite, whenever we are using the VHF and UHF signals, that is in the microwave frequency ranges, that should be above the 30 megahertz of frequency of signals. So above the 30 megahertz of frequencies, that signals are not going to be reflected back to the Earth's curvature, these Earth stations in the ionosphere. So it is going to be penetrating along the ionosphere. So when it is going to be penetrating on the ionosphere, it should be having a repeater station to reflect it back to our receiver station. So for that we require a body. So that body should be a revolving body, not a stationary body. Why? Because if it is a revolving body, the speed of the Earth and the speed of that body should be in a same sequence. Why? Because the Earth is a revolving body, so it is going to be rotating. So for that reasons, it should be a rotating body above that ionosphere. Okay, so for reflecting back of that 30 megahertz of the frequency of signals, we require a repeater station. So that is nothing but a body. That body is going to be calling as satellite. So satellite is a revolving body of another large body is going to be revolving around that. So that is the satellite. So the answer is C, that is they are not diffracted by the ionosphere. Is it clear? Means VHF and UHF microwave signals are used in satellite communication. Why? Means they are not diffracted by the ionosphere. Why? Because I have said that above the 30 megahertz of frequencies, they are not going to be reflected back to the Earth stations. For that we require a body calling as a satellite. Okay, so it is going to be they are not deflected back by the ionosphere's space. Okay, and the next one, which of the following bands cannot be used for satellite communication? Which of the following bands are not going to be used for our satellite communication? The first option is medium frequency, that is MF, and the second option is KU band of frequencies, and third one is X band of frequencies, and the last one is C band of frequencies. So which following bands cannot be used for our satellite communication? Please note this question. Okay, which of the following bands cannot be used for our satellite communication? The first one option is MF, that is medium frequency bands. At the same time, KU band and third one is X band, and the last one is C band. So whenever we are calling as a frequency bands, medium frequency is the less frequency bands and it is having less frequency of signals, so it is not going to be used for our satellite communication. This MF is the correct answer. Okay. The next question: why are techniques like frequency reuse and spatial isolation carried out? So frequency reuse and spatial isolation carried out. Why? The first option is it will reduce the traffic load, the second option is more gain, and the third option is high speed, and the fourth option is error detection. That means we are having number of techniques in our satellite communications that are frequency reuse and the spatial isolation. So why are the techniques like is going to be used? That means it will reduce the traffic load, or more gain, or high speed, or error detection. Please note this question. So why are the techniques like frequency reuse and spatial isolation carried out? The first option is reduce traffic load, the second option is more gain, and the third option is high speed, and the fourth option is error detection. What is an answer? That is, it will reduce the traffic load. So this is the concept to use the frequency reuse and spatial isolation. Okay. The next question: which of the following is not a satellite subsystem? Which of the following is not a satellite subsystem? The first option is ground station, the second option is power system, and the third option is telemetry tracking system, and the last one is communication subsystem. That means it is not a satellite subsystem. It means it is not a part of satellite. What is the option? Whether it is a ground station, whether it is a power system, whether it is telemetry tracking system, or communication subsystem. Please note this question. So which of the following is not a satellite subsystem? The first option is ground station, the second option is power system, the third option is telemetry tracking system, and the fourth option is communication subsystem. The first one is ground station. Why? Because in our satellite system, internally we are having the power system, telemetry tracking system, and at the same time communication subsystem also. The ground system is nothing but it is having in the earth stations, not with the satellite, only which is having in our ground station, that is we are going to be calling as earth stations. Okay, so like this it is the answer, that is ground station is not a satellite subsystem. Very thank you. And in this session I have said about the what is the need of satellite. Okay, what is the satellite, what is the need of satellite, what are the uses of satellite, okay, and what is the history of satellite, I have said in this session. Okay, I have said about the definition of satellite, need of satellite, history of the satellite, and how it works. Okay, so thank you.